Attack on Titan has many amazing plot twists, but one that is often considered the best is the reveal of the warriors in the second season. It is a twist that has you questioning everything and everyone you have ever believed in the story. So how did Hajime Isayama write one of the best twists in anime history? Well, it comes down to three key aspects. By the end of the first season, it is confirmed that Annie is a Titan shifter and she is the female Titan. This increases our suspicion of other characters being Titan shifters as well, especially since we already know that there are two other intelligent Titans, the Colossal and Armored Titans. So, to stop us from thinking about who those shifters are, Isayama distracts us with other things. The second season picks up right where the first season had left us, with the reveal that the walls are probably made of Titans, which shatters our perception of how humanity even came to exist within the walls in the first place. It also raises tons of questions about what the walls really are and how they were built. With a question so fundamental to the nature of the world itself presented to us, it is impossible to simply look away and go back to thinking about who the other shifters could be. If that wasn't enough, the story quickly kicks into high gear with a new invasion of Titans inside Wall Rose. And as the characters move around, exploring the area for the source of the new Titans and fighting for their lives, we are left with many more questions about the story, such as, since there was no hole in Wall Rose, where did these Titans really come from? Were the people of Connie's village turned into Titans? Did the talking beast Titan bring these Titans over the walls? Why are these Titans active at night when the others were not? The blonde girl Krista is important to the church, so does she have all the answers? And finally, the biggest of them all, Ymir is a Titan, but which side is she on? Is she an enemy of humanity like Annie, or is she an ally? By this point, we already have so many questions that our brains don't have enough time to think about the Colossal and Armored Titans. This is how Attack on Titan excels in distracting us so that we don't notice what it is hiding just beneath the surface. And the reason this works so well is that the questions raised to distract us are not random or trivial. They are actually extremely important to the story. In fact, they are so important that the answer to each question has the potential to massively affect where the story goes next. The fact that the reveals of Eren and Annie as Titan shifters were much more obvious, at least in comparison, makes this upcoming one much more unexpected. Because those earlier twists had created an expectation in us as the viewers that reveals like them will have a certain level of obviousness. However, that doesn't mean that this twist came out of nowhere. In fact, if you look back at the series up to this point, you will find that there have been several hints to Reiner and Bertolt's true identities. We just never knew what they meant or thought they were that important. And just to make sure that we don't suspect Reiner and Bertholdt of all people, Isayama made sure to show both Reiner and Bertholdt to be reliable soldiers and friends during the battle at the castle. He even added a subplot that has us thinking about their friend who had sacrificed himself for Reiner, and makes us wonder how that affects their relationship with Ymir. The third and probably the biggest reason this twist is phenomenal is the way it is executed. The build-up to the twist is done really well, with Reiner reminding us that he had almost died at the hands of the female Titan before. This once again raises the question of how he had escaped back then, and since we now know that Annie is the female Titan, it makes us wonder if she had spared him. But before we can think too much about it, the story distracts us once again. First with Reiner and Bertholdt's odd conversation about going back to their hometown, and then with the confirmation that there is no hole in the wall. Then we get to the twist itself. Now most plot twists in fiction are treated as world-changing events that shake the very foundation of their stories, and play with dramatic music. But here, the twist is played as some unimportant background conversation near the tail end of a scene, while the conversation between Hanji and Moblit is the one the story focuses on, which is just pure gold. Most of us are left confused about whether Reiner's first line about destroying the wall was actually real and important, or just some meaningless line before he gets to the point. It was so jarring, in fact, that it made many of us just assume we had read the subtitles incorrectly. But no, Reiner then fully commits by dropping the bombshell that he and Bertholdt are indeed the armored and colossal titans, which is when most of us go,
Nani?
and we really start giving our complete attention to the conversation. However, most of us are still unsure about whether Reiner is really revealing the truth or just bluffing, because the conversation is still in the background, and since we don't know about Reiner's mental health issues at this point in the story, it doesn't really make sense for him to just reveal himself as the armored titan out of the blue, even if that was really the case. What really makes us think that Reiner might be telling the truth is Bertholdt's reaction and expression during the entire scene. The flashback to the previous evening confirms the suspicion in our minds and contextualizes the scene to us. It explains Hanji's plan to lure Reiner and Bertholdt underground and shifts the focus to whether Eren and the Survey Corps can actually pull it off. We then get more explanations from Reiner and a hint at why he and Bertholdt broke down the wall. But even though we have been told again and again that Reiner and Bertholdt are traitors, we still do not want that to be true, just like Eren. So Eren serves as an excellent stand-in for the audience. And just like Eren, we finally accept that the two are indeed traitors when we see steam coming from Reiner's arm. But it's not over yet. Now, considering how much destruction Reiner and Bertholdt have brought upon humanity, the audience would probably be okay with them being treated as evil, but the story continues to treat them as complex characters, with the guilt of both characters being clear, and it even gets us to not want Mikasa to kill Bertholdt before he transforms. As the episode plays out, following the initial reveal by Reiner, the twist slowly but surely starts being treated like a big deal, the way most stories, including Attack on Titan, treat their twists. There are some other elements like the sound design and the visual of the sun coming out of the clouds that elevate the scene even further. The snap and fall of the flagpole amidst the silence and the skies clearing up signify Reiner's own mental state and decision to go through with his initial plan to capture Eren right then and there. The music is pretty much non-existent for most of the episode, so when the epicness of Vogel Im Kafig finally hits, you get the full impact of the legendary twist that this really is. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for next week's video.